Hello everyone. Welcome to today's video, where you'll be the judge for the stories we bring for you. Story 1. Would I be the bad person for asking for paternity test because I don't remember getting her pregnant? This is more of a request for advice than an am I the asshole post. But here it is. I am 35. Have been with my wife, F, 33, for the last 10 years, and we got married 3 years ago. For the past 6 months, our sex life has been non-existent, mainly because I travel for work a couple of times a month. When I'm home, I work long hours. I try my best to help with housework and spend time with my wife, but I pass out the second I lie down. My energy level is depleted. My wife quit her job when we got married, so I can't just take a break from work. It was her choice. I had no say in it. Today, she told me that she's pregnant. I was shocked because the last time we had sex was many months ago. So I joked, "You got pregnant from cuddling? That's the closest we've had to intimacy." She kept insisting, "Don't you remember?" I told her I honestly didn't. She said, "Well, we started making out, then you kind of passed out, so I just rode you." "Oh well," and she giggled. I asked her, "While I was passed out?" She said, "No, you were kind of awake. You had a big smile afterward. What's the big deal here?" I told her that I would at least remember some of it. Come on. She got mad and asked if I was accusing her of something. I said no, but I'm just very confused. Am I the asshole for thinking my wife might have cheated on me? I have been home on occasion, so my traveling hasn't been constant. Do I need her permission to get a paternity test? If she hasn't cheated, why don't I feel happy and joyful? I feel like an asshole. Update. I got a lot of DMs asking for an update. I'll be seeing a lawyer this week, and then I can share more. I checked her phone. I'm not proud of it. And yes, she and my brother bonded over feeling like lonely spouses who were neglected by their partners. While I was away from our work trips, he would tell his wife he was working night shifts and would have sleepovers at our place. They both acknowledged how the arrangement felt both right and wrong, as neither of them wanted to leave their spouses, but still enjoyed the physical and emotional aspects of the affair. When I confronted her, she got angry about me going through her phone and said she felt violated. Honestly, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She insisted the baby is probably mine because we've been having quickies. According to her, it happened more than once. When I was half asleep, and she said, "I only wanted your baby." I told her I don't believe a single word she says. I told her she needs to move out, and we'll figure out what to do after a paternity test. I also told her I'm canceling all her extracurricular activities because they're not my responsibility anymore. She said I'm financially abusing her, but to be honest, I really didn't care. I told her I'd be coming to her next baby appointment because I need to talk to our family doctor. She's currently staying at her best friend's place. Today, she messaged me saying she's spotting and blaming me for it, claiming I've stressed her out and increased her chances of miscarriage. She said I'm a bad father and spouse. Honestly, I'm not even sure if she's ever been pregnant. I asked if she needed a ride to the hospital or her friend's address so I could take her. She didn't answer. So here I am. I blocked my brother from everywhere. I don't have a brother anymore. What is your verdict? Write it down in the comment section below. Story 2. AITA for waiting to divorce my wife until it was a good time for me. My ex-wife and I were married for over 20 years and have 2 children together, 22M and 20F. For most of my marriage, things were pretty balanced. We both shared housework and childcare responsibilities. We were each stay-at-home parents for over a year after each child, her with our son and me with our son and daughter. We always had agreements on how we wanted to divide work and generally had decent communication. This changed when my oldest went to high school. My wife got a new job that was both very demanding on her time and was 50% travel. This meant that I had to handle everything about 2 weeks per month, and when she was home, she wasn't holding up her side of the work with agreements. I did my best to be accommodating, and we worked through redistributing chores / house work a few times to make it fit her schedule better. But a lot of the work just kept falling to me. When the pandemic happened, things got worse, but I tried to just suck it up because I knew the lockdowns were temporary. Finally, when things opened back up, things continued to decline, and I asked to go to counseling. She missed a lot of our meetings and just didn't commit to it. At this point, I decided that I wanted a divorce. Unfortunately, it was a really tough time for the family. My son was getting ready for college in person after his freshman year being remote, which was both financial and logistical challenge. At the same time, my daughter was also having some issues with depression, and I had become her main support person with my wife gone half the time. I made a decision to wait until my daughter was in a better mental state and our family was in a financially stable place before I filed for divorce. I did my best to continue to contribute and was essentially a single parent for 3 years. On a few occasions, I brought up counseling again, but my wife said things were good and wouldn't go. We pretty much didn't have sex for that period of time, and there was one summer where she essentially moved to North Carolina for 6 weeks for work. She came home on some weekends. Last year, after my daughter started sophomore year of college, and she was in a better place mentally and emotionally, I sold off some of my stock investments to create a trust for my kids to ensure college was covered. Then I filed for divorce. At first, my wife was really pissed. Then she left to live in North Carolina again. When she came back 4 weeks later, she said she wanted to work through it. But I told her I had made the deck icing to leave years ago and wasn't interested. We eventually worked through mediation and got an amicable divorce. My kids live with me now and support me. But all of my in-laws and even most of my family outside of my sister think I'm asshole. They believe I should have forced the issue more when we started counseling and either divorced or made it clearer to my wife how important counseling was to me. They've called me selfish, and some of my in-laws are refusing to interact with my kids when they're at my house. For example, my daughter FaceTimed her grandmother once this summer, and she hung up once she saw that my daughter was at my house. They also created a bit of a scene at my son's graduation in the spring, refusing to acknowledge me and demanding that my son choose to celebrate with them, or me rather than having dinner together as a group. I encouraged my son to go with them, and we had our own celebration later. But something happened at the dinner, and my son has lived with me and been almost no contact with them since. I honestly feel like I did what was best for my kids, but now it feels like their mom's family is punishing them, and I feel like a terrible father. I admit that it might have been more mature to address the issue head-on with my relationship with my ex, but I felt that it was about more than just the two of us. Frankly, I feel like my lack of backbone years ago has made this divorce worse for my kids, but I also believe that if I had to do it again, I would still prioritize my kids over my own feelings and make the same choice. AITA. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up. First off, thanks for folks who provided feedback and comments. I really felt like shit, and both the positive and negative comments helped me get a little perspective on things. I've seen a few comments come up multiple times, so I figure it's worth answering them here before I move on. This is an account I created to ask an embarrassing dating question earlier this year. I created it because my main username is recognizable, and I reused it now because I don't really want to air my issues associated with a known username. When my wife took the job, we were doing well financially, but the job still came with a big raise. I was making about $200,000, and the job she took gave her a raise from about $80,000 to $140,000. That was enough that we could go from saving enough to have an emergency fund to having enough to pay for our kids' college outright. We both work in tech, but she works for a defense contractor, and some of the work needs to be done on site, and only one of the offices related to her work is near where we live. When we originally discussed the job, her plan was to work in the high travel role for some time, then try to transfer to a lower travel role based near us. She got promoted a few times, and staying near our home wasn't an option unless she took a bit pay and title cut. When we divorced, I was making about $280,000, and she made a little over $300,000. Some folks were also confused by my stock comment. I'm a software engineer for a big tech company, and about 20 to 30% of my salary comes in the form of RSUs, restricted stock units. I'm not an investor by any means, and I was just selling off stock mostly to cover my daughter's college and pay off what debt my son had. I know a lot of people are jumping right to an affair, but I really doubt it. In school, my wife and I were the obnoxious kids who reminded the teacher about homework, and she's a massive introvert. Her working late in a hotel room is much more likely than her sleeping around or keeping some secret family. There's a chance I'm wrong here, but I think this is more a situation where Reddit sometimes thinks all divorces end with infidelity. When I say we had an amicable divorce, I mean that more in the legal sense than the emotional sense. Uncontested might be a better term. The only significant asset we had that wasn't easily split was our home. My wife loves the house, and I frankly wanted something different. So, she bought out my portion of it. Our kids are adults, so there's no custody. Our assets are mostly divisible, so no issues there. Our salaries were comparable, so there was no alimony. We each had a car. Overall, it was pretty straightforward to divide things evenly, and neither of us wanted to draw things out. We didn't end the marriage as friends by any means, but from a legal standpoint it was amicable, because we decided on arrangement with a mediator and only involved lawyers, briefly, to actually draft the final paperwork for the judge to sign off on. What do the members of the jury think? Is he the AH in this story? Express your verdict down in the comment section. The top comment will be posted on next week's video. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe. In life, we may run, but we can't hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.